It's taken its time, but we're about to start. So one sec. Okay, it says we're streaming live on YouTube. So hello, everyone. Julija Simas here for the Cosmic Intelligence Agency. We are gathered together today for the CIA's Equinox Libra Ingress update. Of course, we try and do this every 3 months and I invite the agents that are very keen to share some mundane, predominantly mundane astrology with us. So today I've got, well, on my top left is Liz Hathway in the Netherlands. Hello, Liz. Liz is agent 115, and I just visited you in Amsterdam, which was so cool.
It was
great to see people in their homes and, well, in their hometowns, I should say.
Yeah.
And then below me is Kenan Yokubasi from Istanbul. Hello, Kenan.
Hello, great to see you again, Julia. I really miss you.
Oh, same here. And of course, myself and Rod, who I'll introduce in a minute, were in Istanbul also, not, well, it seems like a long time ago, but it was only a few months ago, for an amazing conference that you organized that was so well done for such a young agent. Brave to do that. The astrology in Turkey is incredible, how many people are doing and absorbing astrology there. So it really is a hub. I think it's a really big hub. Do you feel like that?
Yes, it's the center of the astrology, I think, all over the world.
Yeah. Incredible, incredible. And then Rod. Hello, Rod. Rod, who's been an agent with us also for quite a few years. He's in London, the UK. So welcome again, Rod.
Hiya, and hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
So we're going to begin. Now, everyone's a keen mundane astrologer here. Kenan, you've just written a book about astro mapping of all kinds. Now, we really want to get a translation of that. I want to read it, but it's only in Turkish, yeah? So we need to find how to do. Sorry?
It's just only Turkish now, but I really want to translate in English as soon as possible, as much as I can.
Yeah, okay, good. And Rod, you've also got a book. Is it coming out soon?
Yes,
As
yes,
well.
yes. It's about comet because I think in Australia you can already see it. It's called Comet 2023 Zijinsan Atlas. Well,
Uh-huh.
we were expecting a huge, great comet. Well, now it's a tiny, small comet, but still bright. So tiny and bright. Anyway, but I think, well, maybe in the future we will see some huge comet. So I write a comet in astrology, which are my favorite topic, and it's going to publish by the end of this month.
Oh, by the end of the month. Fantastic. Wow, can't wait for that either.
Yeah.
Now, of course, there's not been that much written about comets. There has been in the past, but it's bits and pieces, isn't it? There's not just a
Yes.
book on comets in astrology, really, is there? So very good stuff.
Thank
And
you.
Liz, you might not be writing a book, but you do write a lot, and you are sort of talking everywhere, let's say, with Rod's channel. I can see your name in a lot of places, sort of with the mundane world, yes.
No, I'm also busy with my
Oh, you've
thesis,
got a
of
book
course.
too.
My thesis is being published by the Sophia Centre,
Oh, right,
and
right.
it's all in sort of the editing process at the moment. That will be about my dissertation, which was on Saturn. So I've just received 4 chapters
Yeah,
back from Nick. So
okay.
it's sort of
It's
it's a
happening.
Saturn project. So it's
Right.
what we say, it's rumbling slowly along. Let's put it like that. So
Okay.
give it another 2 years and we'll be
Oh,
there.
2 years, you think?
Yeah, no,
Oh,
see, it's
really?
Saturn, right? It's going to be
It
slow.
will
It's
be
slow. Nick is
perfect by the
busy.
time yeah, it will be perfect.
And you know, Nick Campion, he's just really busy. So I just have to wait and he sends me when he has, you know, an opening
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
signature. But
So for some of you that don't know, so Liz is doing, it's a master's degree, isn't it?
I finished
Tell
it,
us a
and
little
this
bit
is
about it.
so it's well, I did the Saturn diary with you, remember, a few years ago. So that's part of it. So it's an autoethnography of my introduction to astrology through actually through Linda Goodman as a 13-year-old at school, and my experience of being a Capricorn. And it's a sort of journey into where the associations that we make with Capricorn and Saturn, where the roots of that lie. And it's also involving research, partly online, with other astrologers to get contemporary views and relating that to the ancient views of Saturn. So it's kind of quite I think it's quite rich. Anyway, Nick said he's enjoying doing it, so that's good enough for me.
Fantastic.
You know,
Oh,
so
wow. And
we'll
so it
get
will be
there.
published in their book that will
They
have a
have
few.
they have a small
Great.
series of monographs, it's called, and
Yeah.
they publish because I got my degree with distinction, so certain papers that were part of that received some kind of extra honor, if you like, they will be published as
Fantastic.
part of the monograph series. And I think so
Wow.
far there's 2 or 3 books come out in this series. Bernadette Brady's book on chaos. There was
Yeah.
Ada Blair's book on dark skies. And
Okay.
mine, I think, will be the 3rd that will come out in that series. Yeah.
Wow. Well done,
So
Liz.
I'm really busy with that because it's a lot of work, because it is an academic project. So it's not like
Yeah.
writing a piece for Time Lords, which I love doing,
Yeah.
but it is different, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, our standard, well, not our standards, but you know, our attention to, you know, you've got to get this right. We haven't got that much
Yeah.
time, have we? We haven't got 2 years.
Yeah, and you
Gotta
don't
get
want
it out
30,000 words, do you, either? Do you know what I mean?
No. And I'm still waiting to find time for my book. But anyway, let me share this screen now. And can you see that? Can you see that, everyone?
Yeah.
You can see that? Okay, cool. So yes, welcome everyone. And really, we're in good hands here with the agents online with us today. And of course, all of you, I've just got to get a few windows sorted out here. And the chat, so keep chatting. Now, so before we start, I just want to tell you about the CIA membership. This is the thing that keeps us going, and the website, Time Lords magazine, in that sort of sense. So we do have people joining all the time or trying out, let's say, for a year. And I encourage you all to do so, because there's just a wealth of wonderful webinars in our library. So you can access any time, and we do have amazing 20 or more webinars, you know, throughout the year or every year. So you've got everything that comes, you know, in that year, as well as like about 120 or even more webinars that you can access. And I've just resorted them a little bit from not sort of basic astrology, but most of the people that join us already know astrology, and they're kind of deepening their kind of studies and information with us. So and today, if you hang around till the end, someone, and especially someone on the Zoom here, can win a CIA membership. So we have to come up with a question or something, agents, that we can ask. All right. So think about it during the thing, someone that will get the right answer for something that we do. But also, this is of course, the webinars that we've had. This is just an example of the different topics that we have that you can access. We just most recently had the 9th house and dreams with Liz, which was fantastic. Just before that, we had stationary planets with Rod. Again, you can learn so much from all of these agents and guests, let's say. What we've got coming up is Nessus and Pholos. That's this Friday with Andrew Smith. Again, he did a talk for us on Shariklo last year, which was mesmerizing. So I can imagine this will be just as amazing. Coming up, we've got an alternative look at Algol with the wonderful Camilla Litzes, who is, of course, the Time Lords editor. So that's going to be cool. And then, well, after Andrew, then we've got Astrology Delivery, as Jessica Adams calls it, looking at the next 3 months. And she's got quite unusual and interesting ways of let's say, simplifying the astrology that we are looking at. And again, have a look on the website for all these amazing things that you can access as a member. And as is tradition for the equinoxes and solstices, we have about 5 days to a week where we have it 20% off. So if you are keen and you would like to, let's say, study more or just deepen your astrological intake, it's well worth the effort and value. I think it's very good value, because in the end, it's only $12 a month, which for that amount of content, we'd rather have more members. Okay, so that's why we like to put on sales all the time. And then Time Lords magazine, which actually all of you have contributed to. Kinan and Liz are regular contributors. And have a look at the issues that we've had in the past. There's lots of things to read there. And then the latest one that only came out a few weeks ago, the next one will be out let's say mid-December or a bit earlier. So if you're wanting to be involved in a sense with an article, do get in touch, or even advertising, get in touch as well. It does reach a lot of people, and it's a free magazine, and therefore does reach a lot more people in that sense. So it's well worth let's say, hooking in there if you want to advertise something for Christmas or the next year or events, and we do really want to stick to advertisers that are related to astrology or doing things like we do. So supporting all the amazing work that astrologers are doing around the world. So here we are at the equinox. Let's get into the equinox a bit. Most of you, can you see my pointer? Yes? Yeah, great. So we know that, you know, we're at the point where the sun crosses the equator, and it denotes the sun coming south again. Yay, we get to have summer, although it's been very cold in Melbourne and is proving to be still cold for a while, but we have the sun now coming down towards the solstice in the next 3 months, or the Capricorn solstice. So saying goodbye to the Northern Hemisphere summer and hello to the Southern Hemisphere summer. And, you know, many of you already know this, but of course, the sun being at 0 declination and latitude at the equinoxes is of course the balancing point, or a rebalancing point, as we understand with Libra as well. So, you know, I always kind of show this chart because it just gives us an idea. So when the sun is at 0 Scorpio, its declination is 11.5. When it's down at 0 Sagittarius, it's at 20. And so we get to know these things kind of automatically the more that we, let's say, understand them and do them and so on. So again, it's another part of astrology. And I think at the CIA, we always like to, let's say, just do things that not everybody is talking about, because everybody's talking about, you know, this and that, or, you know, a planet in a sign or an aspect or something. So again, deepening the astrology that we know, because as you know, agents, there's just so much in astrology, isn't there? Like, again, you know, the sort of surface stuff, and how many things you can add, or techniques, or depth to everything that you're doing. So now feel free to sort of, let's say, participate here, guys. The key factors of this is just a 0 Aries chart that I've put here together, you know, because we're kind of just talking in a general sense now. We'll go off into particular countries as we go through. But, you know, the main things that we see in this time frame, and again, the ingress charts tell of, let's say, the flavor for the next 3 years. I mean, not 3 years, 3 months. And of course, you know, we are in eclipse season during this equinox as well. And so But one of the things that sort of really stood out when I was looking at this was, of course, the Sun is trine Pluto, which is right at the end of Capricorn. And not many maybe use Sedna, but we just had a webinar with Alan Clay on Sedna in Gemini. And again, a very, very slow moving planet that's just changed signs. You know, you could say very much adding to the big shifts that are happening, you know, around the planet and very much in relation to how we work and the AI, you know, experience, let's say. And it's just interesting to note that by 2025, there will be a grand trine between these three. Like Pluto will be at 0, you know, 1 Aquarius and said they'll all be at 0 in Libra Ingress next year. So anyway, that's just an interesting thing. So that's not just a once off. It's going to be, you know, repeating. The moon is conjunct Sedna. You can't deny it. You wouldn't see it if you didn't have Sedna on there. The sun is opposite Neptune, and, you know, at every ingress now, you know, over the next 2 years, we're going to have, you know, a cardinal ingress somehow relating to Neptune, either by square or an opposition or a conjunction, of course, for the Aries ingress. So what do you guys think about that? Like, you know, Neptune at an ingress being very prominent. Anything you want to sort of say about that?
Well, I mean, just generally, would you sort of think along the lines of the rational, particularly with Mercury and Virgo, opposed to the chaotic, which is very much Neptune? I think what we've seen, I think the news broke today about the interference in elections by Russia using fake news.
Right.
And I think this is the sort of thing that we're going to see certainly into, you know, the run up to the American election. I think the whole fake news story, because Mercury's also square Jupiter, which is Mercury ruled, so it's all going to get ramped up a notch. You know, we just had the story, was it, of Kamala Harris apparently involved in a car crash, and, you know, it was completely fake, all of it. But it does somehow find its way into main news streams as well, and get reported. And I think that is something that's definitely going to, you know, if we look at this chart, you know, with Jupiter, Mercury, Neptune, I think that is making the balancing act, which is very much Libra diplomacy. It's kind of muddying the water in a way. It's just a sort of general feel about it, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that fake news thing, and then even as Alan again relates Sedna in Gemini to AI, Pluto in Aquarius into, we've got this, who knows what is real? Like, we've said that for a while now, haven't we? But it's really sort of amping up. Like, you know, again, as you're saying, you know, advertising and all that kind of stuff. Is that like in Australia at the moment, or just recently? It's like, you know, the laws, they're trying to create laws to crack down on, you know, AI presidents or prime ministers, you're right, you know, saying stuff and doing things like, how do we get around that? So, yeah, very, very much so. What about you, Rod? Anything to add there?
Yeah, I think the interesting part of this, you know, this we can say in one way is a kite formed by the Earth grand trine, which the sun is not involved, but we is kind of an Earth grand trine. Well, at least we have to focus on the resource we have, or maybe like a Pluto in the Capricorn. We have to recycling the old things, but we also have to rediscover new things as Uranus in the Taurus. But this grand trine, Earth grand trine, is work together with the 3 outer planets, Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus, from a small trine. Small trine is more like how we adopt, how we learning swiftly and adjust. So, I mean, this Ingress chart from this kite, I'm not, to be honest, my astrology usually is doomed. As you can see, I study comet. I see everything is like, oh my God, we're going to be destroyed. I'm joking. but I really see, I kind of see hope here as at this season. We are going to learn much more about the future. especially we have the Jupiter-Saturn square is a turning point over 20 years. Now we are in the port of it. And so this kite is kind of give us a little bit of knowledge and information about how future will be. So we can adopt it, we can learn it. We probably not totally adopt it, but we will have the glimpse. We will know, oh, it's like this. Like we know what this AI can break us, what is the AI about, what fake news can maybe do it, and we can prevent it, we can prepare for it.
Yeah, very good. Yes, with the kite, Neptune at the top there, and
I like that idea. Yeah.
Yes, me too. And again, keeping inspired, or not losing, hope and all that kind of stuff, feeling the despair. Like we have to remember sort of more difficult times all the time in order to get us through, don't we? Oh, I remember when this happened, whatever. The escalating price of living is like extreme, and we're okay, we're well off. What about everyone else, right? Or other people? So it's extreme. What about you, Keenan? Anything to add there in regard to?
I'm just still trying to adjust my microphone. How is it now?
You sound a bit better now.
Yeah, it's much better.
You sound better now.
Okay, because I found a button here. Bilmiyorum, how does it sound now? I don't know, but
no, much better. Good.
Okay. Neptune was also in the forefront in the Aries ingress charts. Maybe you can remember that. It was at 27 degrees, the exact exaltation of Pisces. It means chaos, epidemics, virtual realities will be brought to the forefront. But we never understood Neptune itself, I think. Maybe we shouldn't understand. That was the nature of Neptune, by the way. And I understand Neptune more. I understand Neptune more with Julija and CIA. Because there is a Neptunian meaning in the CIA's mission. I don't know. It contains unity and love, energy.
Without even knowing, people not even knowing. Yeah, that's
exactly.
I'd still love to make a movie of, activated agents in the world doing astrology. Saving the world with astrology, of course. Anyway, if anyone's got backing for a Neptune or for a CIA series, please let me know. Anyway, so yes, but again, not with Neptune, as you say, Keenan, we can't know everything. And it's like the fear of the unknown. We don't know everything. So, I mean, that's always around us in certain ways. So I think it's just, let's say it's heightened at this point over these, coming years with Neptune at the beginning and end of Pisces and Aries, for sure. And then being beamed off by all the cardinal ingresses, of course. So, the beginning and the end in so many ways. Venus square Pluto. Now, remember at the beginning, the Aries ingress had a Pluto opposite the moon. So here we have Venus square Pluto. Don't need to say the price of living again, is just extreme for so many of us. What sign? So Pluto at the end of Capricorn and Venus in Sagittarius, right at the end of Sagittarius. So very close square there going on.
Just to comment on that, it's also now going to be the last square, isn't it, between these two? I think the next aspect, there will be a sextile, one sextile Venus-Pluto, and then the next time the two are conjunct will be in December in 0 degrees 22 Aquarius. But I think this square, I don't know, my feeling about it is, I think of Venus as being about what do we value, what do we honor? And maybe the Pluto square is how much are we prepared to pay, thinking of that grand trine in Earth as well, to honor the things that we value, because it looks very precarious there, Venus. It's about to tip into Scorpio. It's going to lose its dignity the moment that happens. So, are we prepared to put in what is necessary to, honor our values? That grand trine in Earth as well, I think, is a bit about the values that we have and what matters to us as as nations. And I think you'll see that when you start to look at the individual ingress of the different countries.
Yeah. Rod or Kinan, anything to add there?
Additionally, there is a mutual reception between Venus and Saturn, I think, which I believe, will also have a significant influence during this period. Venus is an exaltation ruler of Pisces, and Saturn is an exaltation ruler of
course.
Libra.
Exaltation.
And do you think that this mutual reception will have a healing effect on the events? Because according to Firmicus Maternus, before William Lilly and before the essential dignity point systems, exaltation rulership were considered superior to basic sign rulerships.
Right.
However, most classical astrologers have stated that mutual reception can make a bad situations worse and a good situation better, depending on the placement of the indicator.
We do see that, don't we? It's like exemplifies we can't make judgments really if Venus is good or bad, right? It depends what it is and who the person is or whatever. Like you've seen that in sort of serial killer stuff, they've got exalted Venuses or whatever, but so yeah, exactly. Yeah, good point. Rod, anything to add there?
Probably that Venus-Pluto square, and then it would be, a little bit challenging. I will see it on the, maybe I think all around the world. Well, in one thing I'm worried about would be like world peace, or in another way could be the so-called traditionally we say female's right, or female's benefit, or maybe even it's a state or for those countries where the female doesn't really own the equality, that could maybe suggest a worse situation in this season. And for the place, maybe have we say so-called female has the equality, maybe has to fight even harder to protect the right already earned. For example, we all know in the US that the abortion right is a huge thing, especially it's going to become a key for the election in the US presidential election. So US is just a represent for our world in a crazy place. But in all around the world, we may be going to see this kind of violated rights, female right or equal rights with the gender or with the so-called sex would be in different way, presented in different way.
Yeah. Good point. And then with the reception that Keenan talked about, maybe that ends up being a good outcome, or than expected through this chart. Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. And then we've got Mars opposite Ceres that have been squaring the nodes, and as we know, and Ceres is extremely out of bounds. So that's really interesting, just in regard to, again, it's not unusual for Ceres to be out of bound in this area of the chart, of the zodiac. But it does perhaps show the extremes with food, that we're going through with food prices, living, the despair that so many people are going through at this point as well, in Gaza and Ukraine and, like Central America, some places never stopped, you know what I mean? So I think there's a big awareness there, but I'm going to talk a bit more about her as we go through. And then there's, again, there's a few other things. Let me just go to the next one. And then, of course, the chart points to the things that are, let's say, coming up. We're in eclipse season. Keenan's going to talk more about eclipses coming up. We've just had the lunar eclipse last night. Was it it was yesterday. I was feeling very wonky in the last few days, I tell you what. The solar eclipse at 10 Libra, a Jupiter-Saturn exact squares. We've had one, we've got another one in December, and then the last one of this series, but will be in Aries and Cancer in June next year. And we have Mars opposite Saturn, Mars opposite Pluto coming up, which is a big one. I think I saw the other day that Mars opposite Pluto in these signs hasn't happened since 1939. So that's interesting. Pluto in Aquarius goes back to Aquarius as the last ingress into Aquarius. Mercury retrograde, goes retrograde on the 24th of November, so a few weeks after the US election. And Mars will begin retrograde on the 7th December, very interestingly, on the USA North Node. So there is a lot coming up. Anyone want to talk about any of those points a bit more?
So in a way, you could say Mars is going to carry over into the last opposition, or will be with Pluto in Aquarius, because it's going to hang around in Cancer for a long time. I always think of like Mars in Cancer as being about homeland security, taking care of, home, family, the sort of defensive sort of side of Mars comes up. And certainly with Pluto in the picture involved with Mars, there's definitely, a lot of punch in Mars, more punch, if you like, than normal. And yeah, it's going to be in the sign, Mars in the sign of the US Sun and Cancer. So yeah, there is that sense, I think, that if, the election goes, to Harris, that there's always that question, how will the Trump supporters react? So it's kind of, the Mars is hanging around in Cancer for months. I think it won't actually change sign until, leave Cancer till the spring of next year. So it's really bringing the focus of Mars into that sort of area of the Sun and Jupiter and Mercury in the chart of the US. So yeah, it's certainly raises the bar a bit in terms of, tension and possibility of, emotional reactions to things kicking off.
Yeah, for sure. Anything else there? I mean, I know we'll probably get into it as everyone sort of talks on their own kind of points coming up. But yes, certainly very interesting. Like I've put together, we'll continue on. So we can see we're here now in eclipse season as the Sun, Moon, and Mercury come together for the Libra eclipse. And then at the beginning of November, we have, quite a kind of conglomeration, and it's just super interesting. And again, one of the reasons I believe that Kamala will win the election is that the Moon, Ceres, and Venus are out of bounds. Now, for the first, US, let's say, female president, there's anyway a few indicators that I've been looking at. What would you say about that? I mean, there's nothing else out of bounds except for the three, principal, let's say, feminine signals.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it? In the sense of, they were pushing through, this is the time, this is the time on the planet that this is likely to happen.
Yeah.
Again, with mundane astrology, you need to go through so many, back and back. I haven't looked back to see when the Moon, Ceres, and Venus were out of bounds, but again, these feminine, let's say, planets, they represent, a female more than a male, sort of breaking the barriers, for sure. So, and then sorry, Liz, yeah?
No, I was just thinking that in the chart of the US, secondary progressed Jupiter I know secondary progressed Jupiter is slow. It's one of those slow moving planets in secondary progressions, but it will be turning direct. I think it's in 2027, so it's right coming to that point. And I just think that it's, you know, it went retrograde, by the way, at a really interesting point in US history. I'm not going to go into it too much because I've just written an article on it for the OPA.
Okay. Yeah.
But I think the person who has the most positive vision, and Jupiter's moving into Cancer next year, I think the candidate with the most positive vision for the future of the country is going to be closer to the heart of the nation at the moment than somebody who is stirring it up. So I agree with you. I also think that Kamala Harris will actually become the first female president of the US. I agree. But
and then by the end of November, that's when Mercury goes retrograde, Mars, you know, turns retrograde. Beginning of December, we've got another conglomeration. So you can almost sort of foresee that, yes, and we've got to remember that the moon's out of bounds, you know, at its lunar standstill 24, 25. So, you know, we've got these extremes going on. And again, during times of extreme, these are again the points where the most breakthrough happens, let's say. So you can imagine this, the contesting, or the, let's say, the, you know, the archetypal white man, you know, will maybe a bit grumpy because a female black president has come into the fold. But anyway, so something to keep an eye on. Sorry, Liz. Yes.
Just to, you know, the moon or Venus or those sort of planets out of bounds, they can always, though, throw you a curveball. I mean, that's the whole idea of out of bounds. Because I remember the Venus going out of bounds on the day of the Brexit vote in the UK, and Venus rules UK ascendant, and the moon, of course, rules you know, the sun in the US Sibley chart. So, you know, going out of bounds, and I do always, when I watch Trump in a debate, I'm always struck by how there's something about him, you know, that just on one level scares me, but on another level, I know he's talking from a very sort of underbelly sort of place. And, you know, it's not rational. He's not rational at all. But I'm always struck by how dangerous he is, actually, you know, because he's just got something that's, maybe he's linked to the manifest destiny of the United States Jews, who knows? But, you know, I find it...
Well, I see it as though he's had his time. He had to go. Right, like you know, why anyway, but again, there's just so many sort of levels of things. A quick look at the astrocartography, but this is the geodetic map, so the map that begins at 0 Aries. I'm kind of gotten really into these lately, and you know, we've got, interestingly, that, you know, during this ingress, of course, through Washington's in the middle of Chiron and Eris. And this is, of course, Eris moves off a bit, but Chiron is right there over Washington at the election. Okay, so I'm going to kind of tell us a little bit more about that. And then again, hotspots, there's fires in Portugal, I think pretty bad fires. And we've got, what is that, Mars, Pluto, no, Mars and Ceres, right, sort of through there. There's been floods in Europe, and that's where Pluto is crossing over to on the descendant. So Pluto's been moving through Europe anyway on the geodetic map. We've got Uranus over Tehran. Now that's a very sort of volatile place of, you know, is something going to, you know, kind of come from there? And interestingly, again, and we see this when we do astro mapping, Rod, both of you, I mean, all of you probably would notice that sometimes there's nothing where there is something happening. And so I've kind of learnt to then look at midpoints and all that kind of stuff, because you think, how can that not be a hotspot when it is a hotspot, you know, if this is indeed what we're doing. So do you guys use midpoints for places, let's say, you know, LA's burning as well, or the outskirts, but there's nothing kind of going through there either. Of course, this is again the geodetic map. Now, I use the geodetic map because it's extremely symbolic, and we're going to sort of see more about that as we go through. But before we do, so every place on the planet has a geodetic coordinate. Okay, so that Jerusalem, or the what do you call it? The capital of Israel has a 5-degree Taurus MC with a 20, which is on a midpoint dial. This is what I'm showing you here. Every geodetic coordinate, or every degree on the dial, has an opposite as well, right? So we do treat them as oppositions. And so therefore we've got 5 degrees Taurus and 20 degrees of mutable that become very, very significant, right? And when we put 5 degrees of Taurus, like as the hotspot, because that's where Jerusalem is, I'm just picking that place because it didn't show anything up. But look at this, it's opposite Jupiter, and it is, the midpoint of Mars and the moon at this ingress. Okay, so when Mars is involved, when Jupiter is involved, we can still imagine, how much more there is to go through in that area, for example, right? So again, and then again, knowing a bit more about using the dial and midpoints, for those that don't know, we have the first 30 degrees of the dial that represents all the cardinal points, okay? So as we were talking about Venus and Pluto being in square, all the squares, all the 8th harmonics show up. So they are both in, Pluto's right at the end of Capricorn, and Venus was at the end of Libra, right? So they're both in cardinal signs. They look like they're a conjunction here, okay? So this is how, we read that, and it just becomes so much more interesting. Do you guys use midpoints? I've just become, again, much more, like sometimes there's missing information, and, you do find it here. And then we've got the fixed signs from 30 degrees to 60, anything in a fixed sign. We've only got Uranus in a fixed sign, which is also really interesting, isn't it? In the sense of how, unstable things are, right? The most unstable planet is the only one in a fixed sign at this point. And again, lots of mutable energy here as well. So again, showing how many things. Now, I want us to just concentrate on the geodetic coordinates of Washington, D.C., of course, the capital of the USA. And so the MC and the IC of Washington is 14 degrees of Capricorn, the MC, and Cancer, the IC. And we know that the sun of the USA is 13 degrees something. So let's just say 14 degrees of Cancer. So, and then the opposite to the 14 degrees is 28 fixed, which is exactly where Uranus is, right? So we're adding to this, kind of, let's say, again, you wouldn't see that just in a normal chart unless you did the dial and you lined these things up again. So, and then, so we got Venus, Pluto, and Neptune and the sun. So I've just put the hotspot as in so everything that we ever look at for the USA, we should be really looking at 14 cardinal and 28 fixed as like highlights for, what's really triggering their area. Okay. And this can be done, of course, for every other nation and capital. And if we put that at 14 there, what have we got? We've got Venus, Pluto, and Neptune and the sun, right? And it's also the midpoint between Uranus and the moon at this ingress as well. So a lot going on there, okay? So then the rising coordinates of Washington, D.C. is 23 degrees of Aries and Libra, which is, of course, where Chiron and Eris are. Okay, so again, we've got this movement going through there at the moment. So I just found that so interesting, as the more I've looked at it. And if we remember the Aries ingress for 2024, what we find is that Ceres was at 13 degrees of Capricorn. We had the moon opposite Pluto. Again, a big signature of maybe more of the fight for a female, or, something like that, or for the feminine. And of course, Ceres in Capricorn. So Ceres right at the top of the chart there. Right at the top of the geodetic map there. And Eris at 24 degrees as the rising point. So we've got a lot of, again, these kind of, feminine goddesses, sort of really presenting themselves there. And as I said before, Chiron will be there during the election. So whatever is happening, we're going through a healing process that will maybe calm things down more than sort of erupt to craziness. Because the really interesting thing, when Donald Trump was elected in 2016, guess what was going through there at 22 degrees of Aries? Uranus, with Eris as well. So you kind of look at that and go, okay, this is a little bit of a different story. Anyway, so I've started looking at these things. Now, this is, again, we're looking at the coordinates for the Cancer ingress. Now we've got Ceres out of bounds, and she's at 17 degrees Capricorn, hovering over that point. Eris is right over the rising point of the USA. So again, lots of commotion, lots of like unexpected sort of happenings, let's say. So again, for me, I've started really sort of, okay, what country are we looking at? These degrees need to be, let's say, highlighted. And that's exactly what I'm looking at for the candidates of, the election, right? So this is just showing that Uranus was at 22 Aries in 2016 for the Libra Ingress, going right through here with Eris. And then this time we've got Chiron and Eris going through as well. Okay, just keep that in mind. So I've kind of adapted these things to quite a lot of presidents of the United States, and the ones that have had, let's say, more resonance with those degrees, right? 14 cardinal or 23, 24 degrees of cardinal. So again, the cardinal kind of rules there, right? And I started doing this with the Australian presidents, and we've got a Sagittarius Leo experience for our presidents, and the most popular one had very, very good lines in the sense relating to the geodetic map of Canberra. And that's where I sort of started doing more of this kind of research, let's say. So let's have a look. So Kamala Harris, this is her chart for the relocated chart to Washington. Now, I think it's just more significant because it is about running for the presidency of the United States. So doing her relocated chart to Washington for the 5th of November, I've just picked midday just to even out the whole sort of timing there, right? So Mars is on the ascendant, of course. Pluto is on the descendant. Again, this is a pretty strong axis to be, let's say, holding for her. Chiron's on the MC, as we saw in the geodetic map. The Moon, Ceres, and Venus are out of bounds. Venus out of bounds is applying to the South Node here. And Uranus retrograde applies to her Jupiter. She is also turning 60 years old. It is her wood dragon year, so that's another big highlight as her year, let's say, returns as well. So there's a few things, again, looking at all of this that's very significant, to me. And then as I continue, we do know, okay, Jupiter's sort of hanging around her North Node as well. And then there's a few things. And of course, there's a lot of other stuff that you could look at there. But, let's just focus on a few things at the moment. Then I've done her astrology chart over the USA independence chart, or the Sibley chart as it's called. And it's really quite significant to find Pallas Athena and the Black Moon Lilith right on the ascendant of the USA. So again, there's sort of things that really point to her. It's her time. It's now her time to be very significant here in the USA. Ceres is opposite Jupiter. She's got Ceres out of bounds, and so does actually Donald Trump, which is interesting in their natal chart. but it's right opposite the Jupiter and the Venus of the USA. Again, quite significant. Saturn in Aquarius is conjunct the USA moon. That's her Saturn in Aquarius. And the moon and the sun, her moon and sun, of course, she was born at a full moon, so was Donald Trump, is opposite and is sextile that moon as well. So again, there's a lot of things kind of locking into, you know, her chart and let's say the placement of the USA and the USA's chart. And I said this before, but the Mars station retrograde will happen on the USA's North Node. I think that's really significant for a big change in something that's not happened before. I haven't looked to see when Mars stationed retrograde on the USA nodes at an election, but we do know with Mars that it's probably more than likely it doesn't happen very often. Right, to be in the same place. It does not happen very often. I think the closest I found was around the election of Bill Clinton and let me think, JFK. So anyway, we haven't had a female president before for the US. So now I've done Kamala Harris's chart with the significant points of the USA as I showed on the geodetic, okay? The 23, 24 rising degree and the 14 degree cardinal. And so the 14 degree cardinal shows Jupiter and her MC as the midpoint, okay? I think that's quite significant. And then the 23 rising degree has many, many connections. Mars and the North Node, so Mars and her North Node. Her Saturn and Venus opposite Juno on the midpoint dial. So again, lots of things triggered off for her from that geodetic map, if that makes sense. Are you following me? Again, I told you I'm not doing the usual stuff because I prefer to kind of go down rabbit holes that then sort of teach me something about how else to look at things. So then this is her solar returns. I haven't got much more to go because I just really wanted to give you a taste of things. So this is her solar return coming up on the 20th of October. And again, this is her natal place, what do you call it? Her natal chart where she was born. And then this one's for Washington, DC. Now, what have we got in her Oakland, California chart? We've got Venus rising. That's a beautiful signature. Ruled by Jupiter, and then in the solar return for Washington, Ceres is rising again on that cardinal degree. So, and really interesting that Mars here at 24 degrees of Cancer in, let's say, her seventh house Cancer is not such a good placement for Mars, we could say, but the really interesting thing here is this is where Mars will then be retrograde during the inauguration. Okay, so Mars will be 24 degrees of Cancer at the inauguration on the 20th of January. Have I missed anything out? Anyway, so she's got some good sort of signatures also all connecting, like Venus at 3 Sag, trying to her relocated ascendant, which is 3 Leo, right, that we saw before, and trying the moon for the Aries ingress as well. Remember, the moon was 3 degrees of Leo, remember, for the Aries ingress this year. Okay, so again, another, so many things that are hooking in to really show that. Now, I have done that with Trump, but I'm not going to show you that because I'm showing you this. Sorry, I've only done a little bit with Trump because what I found is there's just so many signatures doing the same thing with Trump. I'm not seeing this, these kind of really these things clicking off, all right? So now this is Donald Trump's chart for election day. It's interesting that Harris and Trump have the same nodal axis. They're born 18 years apart. As we know that they have got different Saros cycles, so they're not born under the same eclipse cycles, but again, super interesting. And they both have Ceres and Mercury out of bounds. Sorry, They both have Ceres out of bound, but Donald Trump has Ceres and Mercury out of bound. Now, we do know that, don't we? We can see that in him. So if we're looking at Donald Trump's chart on election day, again relocated, his chart doesn't change much because he was born in New York and Washington's just, a bit south. I don't know why I got that. Should be Uranus on the MC there. The nodal axis, Moon, Uranus are conjunct Mars and square Neptune. So he has got things, triggering off. We've got Venus on his Venus and Jupiter. I mean, this is, I think a lot of people would say, oh no, Trump's going to win. He's got the benefics on his nodes. And that kind of stuff. When he did win in 2016, Venus was here as well. Jupiter was not there. And anyway, you could see many things. We've got the nodal axis on his Neptune. It's almost a little bit more confusing than sort of so direct. Now, 8 years ago when he did win, again, Venus has got an 8-year return cycle, as we know. So here she is again where she was when, at the 2016 election, but a lot of other things are different. Saturn, Venus conjunct Mercury. Where is that? What am I looking at? Saturn, Venus, and Pluto. Pluto, where's Pluto gone? I think I've got the wrong text here. Anyway, let's just keep going. So now the other thing that's really interesting, now this is the day after the election, and it makes me think that I think there'll be a bit of commotion until, things are counted or whatever, but it's really interesting that the day after the moon crosses 13 degrees of Capricorn. So the moon on the geodetic map will cross that. So I think there's something quite stabilized about that at the time. Anyway, maybe not, but it will be, again, the whole world will be focused on there anyway, right? But I think it might take that day or so to know that if she's won or not by the seats and all that kind of stuff. So here we have the moon crossing over just after the election, we know, with Chiron and Eris right there. So to me, these things kind of, again, still point to something. The different thing to me is that she would win, not Trump, right? Because it's the first female Black president, as opposed to, Trump, who's done it before. Do you know what I mean? So that's again sort of things. And now this is the inauguration day chart at midday. And what we've got a lot of cardinal planets again, Mercury, Chiron, and the moon. Mercury and Mars are now out of bounds. I think this will there'll be a lot of commotion around a lot of things. People won't like it somehow, and it will be, the stabilizing sort of that needs to happen. I have a feeling that if she gets in, she will probably do something about gun control as well. Anyway, so 25 degrees of cardinal is the MC for the inauguration midday, and Mars is on the IC. So, and of course, Pluto and the Sun together is, pretty significant as well. But just lastly, if we put inauguration day for both of the candidates on there, we can see that, well, Trump's getting a Ceres return in a sense. Saturn and Venus are conjunct the Mars, the retrograde Mars there on the IC. And we've got Chiron and Jupiter on the moon for Donald Trump. And Taurus is rising there with a Capricorn 27, 28 degrees midheaven. But when we look at Kamala's chart, we have Jupiter conjunct Uranus. We have Venus exactly opposite Venus, Pluto opposite Saturn, Venus. And we've got her full moon directly, dynamic with the midheaven degree for that. So again, looking at these things, I think the dynamic is much more with Kamala Harris to, let's say, win the presidency and whatever that entails after she gets there, let's say. So anyway, sorry, that took a little bit of time, but anyway, there's lots of other things that you could, of course, look at, as you know, solar arcs and progressions and all sort of things, so many things to look at when you're doing. But anyway, that was my kind of take on that. So I hope you enjoyed that, guys. Any comments on that before we move on?
Well, just one.
Back to hosting.
No, just one comment. I mean, I've never worked with the geodetic chart in the form that you showed there, so that was new to me. But I do wonder what impact Jupiter turning retrograde in Gemini in Donald Trump's sign, what impact that might have. And one of the thoughts I had is maybe we'll then start to see a kind of gap opening in the poles, and that his
like to turn around his kind of
that it will reduce or take off his take off his
momentum, take off the momentum.
Yes, exactly that. Yeah.
And of course, I mean, Jupiter is very close to Kamala's North Node as well. So, there's similarities there, but But again, overall, I think he's had his time in the sun, in a sense, and there's a lot of things that point to kind of the new thing, and the newer thing is her, not him.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So, Liz, anything you want to say, Keenan or Rod, before we move over to Liz? No? Okay. All right, Liz, you have prepared something on Eurozone for us, yeah?
Okay, Jules, I'm going to share my screen. Let's see, can you see my PowerPoint here?
Yes.
Okay. So, excuse me, bit of something in my throat there. It's just a few charts. So yeah, I think it'll be quite short, really. Just some food for thought, really, I think. So just to visit the Libra Ingress chart again. I just want to try and move that, if I can, out of the way there. Yeah. Because I think this is the chart set for Brussels. And Brussels, you could say, is the heart of Europe. And actually, the Sagittarius ascendant is across a large swathe of Western Europe. So if you're looking at the chart for Berlin or London, they're all sort of having Sagittarius on the ascendant. So to me, Libra is the essence of balance and counterbalance, and that idea of equipoise, where things are just coming together. It's about diplomacy and about, what can be gained through diplomatic routes, as opposed to Mars, we could say here in the seventh, as opposed to, more violent measures. Interesting, I think, in the chart is here that the moon has trined the sun. So this is, an aspect that certainly has been played out. If we think of this Ingress chart set for the UK, for example, and we look at the moon there, the people in the sixth house, then we see that Keir Starmer has recently, made headway. I think actually the doctors strike, because doctors in the UK, the National Health Service falls under the sixth house. We see that the sun trine the moon, which we could say is supporting decision-making and making headways and pulling things together, that we've actually seen that trine certainly act out in the UK. And I think most people as well are quite relieved that also the train strikes are over. So there's a whole period ending in the UK that has been, for a lot of people, has led to a lot of discomfort. I experienced the train strikes last year, for example, when I went to Stafford to the AA conference. It was hell getting back from there. So there is something positive always in a sun-moon trine where diplomacy is concerned. But it can also be sort of crisis meetings. And the thing is about trines, they're not always necessarily positive. It just suggests ease and flow. So if we think about what happened yesterday in Lebanon, the under the lunar eclipse there, there's this sort of things just happening easily, how easily that's and effortless. The explosion of those very Gemini actually as well, these peepers that exploded in their thousands in Lebanon yesterday. I think there we can pick up Mercury, Jupiter square as well. But what is happening in Europe, I think that's interesting me at the moment, is really all eyes in Europe are on the US. Because what happens in the US has an impact on the whole of Europe, and Pluto's in the second house, square Venus in this chart. So, where are we going to put money? How much are we prepared to cough up to support the values that we are professing at the moment? Because Sag rising, it's all about freedom, it's all about democracy, etc. But how much are we willing to pay for that? So, it makes a huge difference in Europe who now enters the White House, because the view, for example, of the war in Ukraine, there's a huge difference in attitudes between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. And we know already that, the whole of Europe has had to pay an awful lot more for its defense, because of America, when under Donald Trump, cutting back on NATO spending and saying, you have to hold your own pants up. We're not, paying everything. So the whole budget thing in Europe, I think, is very much about what is going to happen now in America. Again, I said this earlier when we were looking at the Ingress chart, this whole Mars in Cancer theme is going to be playing out certainly across Europe in the months to come, because Mars is in the 7th house. Jupiter, ruling the ascendant, is in the 7th house. It's all about perceived open enemies, but also new collaborations working together. And I think in the sense that the Venus, the Sun in Libra, this idea of equipoise and diplomacy, given the whole feel of this chart with its, I think there's 5 planets here in mutable signs and Sag rising, trying to find equipoise, trying to be diplomatic, trying to make headway in some of the big, what we could call pain dossiers that are, on the table in Europe, is very difficult while it's undecided what's happening in the US. Huge issue here in the Netherlands, for example. Even this last week, we've had situations where, centres for asylum seekers have been full. People have been, sleeping on the grass outside, and then last minute being shipped to gyms, halls and things. And this is the same in the US. It's not just the economy, but one of the big issues in the US, of course, is immigration. And certainly this is something that is playing out across Europe. The whole theme of immigration, illegal immigration, small boats crossing the channel, you name it. This is a huge theme as we come into, the autumn and winter. Again, this big focus here on the 7th house. So yeah, for example, we had yesterday in the Netherlands, we had what's called Prinsendag, which is when the budget and the plans of the government for the year ahead are put forward. And here again, we can see the bit of that sun moon trine, because the idea is here that working people are going to, moon in the 6th, are going to have a bit more money in their pockets, a sort of small feel-good factor in a time which is actually quite painful across Europe. And this is a great deal of uncertainty. But I think in a general sense, if I just think about, my own chart, or, I think this sort of moon in Mercury rules sign, with Mercury in Virgo, which is about health. It's being mindful, taking care of yourself, taking care of the body. That's something that I'm sort of saying to myself at the moment. And interestingly, the guy who's now leading the government in the UK PM, Keir Starmer, is himself a Virgo. So just a look at this lunar eclipse that we just had yesterday, because I think, we're going into the ingress on the back of this, partial lunar eclipse. And, there's been a lot of tension in the build-up to the eclipse, which we can actually see manifesting as well in the 9th house and the 7th house of the Libra Ingress chart. Because eclipses, as we know, are a play of light and shadow. And what has been happening in the last days is the whole discussion around the appropriately named Storm Shadow, which is a cruise missile, which is sort of Anglo-French cruise missile, which has a maximum range of around 250 kilometers. And the French call it the Scalp, which I find a very kind of creepy name for a weapon. And seeing that 8th house, it really creeps me out, to be honest. But Storm Shadow, as the whole discussion has been, we had, I think just a few days ago, Keir Starmer and David Lammy went to America, because NATO has to decide now whether they are going to allow these weapons in Ukrainian hands to be fired deeper into Russian territory. And I think, I'm thinking of, learning from the past and applying it to the future. What we have seen, I think, is an act of real wisdom on the part of all concerned, in that a decision has been deferred, because we know that, Pluto in Aquarius, that's going to be linked to the whole nuclear enterprise in all its shapes and forms. So, we've had just days ago Putin coming out and, making some very wild threats about, if these weapons are used deeper inside Russia, that this would lead to an escalation, as far as Russia is concerned, of the whole, or change the lay of the land in this conflict in Ukraine. And what we've also seen, because this is the chart here, the eclipse chart set for Westminster, for the UK. And what I've really found fascinating, if you look at that 8th house, Saturn, linked to the color black, it's what the big talk has been recently as well is about the black hole in the finances. And this is definitely a big 8th house theme, right? So the chart, this chart, I think, is interesting as well, because it's, as I said, I think a wise decision was made here with regard to the deployment of these weapons deeper into Russia, because we can see straight away when we look at Mercury here at 24 degrees that it is tying into, the Ingress chart. It's the square to Jupiter is there, the square to the square from Neptune, the opposition, sorry, from Neptune. So this chart is definitely picking up on the general theme of the time. And it was a good decision, I think, because this Mercury is picking up both the lunar eclipse and the Libra eclipse. And of course, NATO was born under a new moon in Virgo. So I think this is wisdom. But on the other hand, they just, as I say, they just literally just met. But what we've seen, talking about that Venus-Pluto square, is just what the cost is. And this is one of the things that Donald Trump, I think, is taking a completely different tack, because he is concerned. He doesn't want to spend all this money on this war in Ukraine. And it's worth, thinking about that as well, because I think the NATO allies this year will spend 380 billion in defense. And one of these far long-range weapons is about $1 million per warhead. And yeah, with Mars, being, coming into NATO, NATO, Mars in NATO is at 21 degrees Cancer. So NATO is about to have a triple Mars return. And the last Mars return will be 24th of March next year. And again, we see the moon here with actually with the position of Pluto in the Ingress chart. So I think the decision is being put off, but a decision will have to be made, because otherwise, if we're not prepared to fully commit to supporting Ukraine, what is the big plan here? What is the future plan? Because I think when I think about what's happening in the Ukraine, and I don't like to think about it too often, to be really honest, I am aware that we are looking down the barrel of a Saturn-Neptune conjunction. And we absolutely know that Russia resonates with Saturn-Neptune. I've written 2 articles in Time Lords on the Saturn-Neptune link to Russia and to Putin, who himself is born under a Saturn-Neptune conjunction. So if we look at this Saturn-Neptune conjunction set for Moscow, I think it can lead to 2 scenarios. We can either have here a breakthrough in which, you know, both sides, Ukraine and Russia themselves, you know, decide, you know, on new borders, and maybe Ukraine becoming neutral. I'm not, I think that, and sometimes I think that would be the better course of action. But the other scenario, of course, is an escalation of what is happening in Ukraine. And I think it was Rod who said earlier, you know, that we have to learn about things. We have to learn lessons. And I think, you know, if we look at our allegiances and our alliances in the past, you know, they have led us into some situations which have led to huge loss of life. And when the dust has settled, was it worth it? So I think that is my little chat. Quite intense, I think. But yeah, so that's me taking a picture of myself. Thank you. I'm going to
Thanks so
stop
much,
sharing.
Liz. Wow.
Was that-
Gosh.
Yeah.
Yes, intense times coming up. That Saturn,
Yeah.
Neptune
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
0. Of course, that goes, you know, right through Greenwich, as we know as well. So that's a very interesting reset somehow.
I mean, can Britain afford it? You know, and I look at the finances, I think, you know, what is the long-term plan? And I do think that we have to be hopeful for a breakthrough, you know, that both countries in concerned fighting have realistic aims and ambitions about where they can go. That's my thought. But the other scenario is
that we'd go back to how, you know, back to, you know, the 1940s or something, you know, please.
Yes. Yeah.
But then, you know, if escalating in the way that we would never have wars like that anymore anyway. I mean, although the ground war in Ukraine, but now being escalated by these long range missiles. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. It's sort of, I think that it was an act of wisdom to not take a decision. I think putting it off is really the way to go at the moment, and try and get round, that's that Libra thing of, you know, diplomacy, and try and find a way forward that involves sides actually talking to each other, you know. And
well, I mean, in that sort of sense, you need a diplomatic president as well.
Yeah. But you do have to wonder, you know, what would happen if Trump came in and pulled the plug on it? You know, there is a part of me that thinks, what would happen then? You know, how would it pan out then? You know, it's you see, I believe in fate, Jules. I believe in the hand of fate moving affairs. So sometimes as mundane astrologers, I sometimes think it's about observation, really, and just watching as opposed to predicting, you know, just feeling it out.
Seeing what presents itself the most, for sure. All right, thanks so much, Liz. Again, a lot to think about there. Keep an eye on Liz and what she writes, because she's always onto it. So next we're going to Kenan. Yes, Kenan, for you, your turn. Sorry to keep you, Rod. I'm trying to do. Actually, I think I was going to say you next. Anyway, I got it wrong. Whatever. Sorry.
Thank you for sharing these wonderful insights, and it's really great to meet you, Liz, here.
Well, thank you. Nice to see you, Kenan. I'm looking forward to hearing your talk.
Thank you so much. But can you see my screen now, because I can't see my face, my screen now.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Main themes you see, and we have discussed many of the topics I introduced here together. Now, I would like to explain what the Moon and Sun trine might bring us the upcoming 3 months. because in previous meetings we specifically examined the Moon-Pluto opposition. Maybe you can remember that. I had researched the same aspect pattern in the ingress charts from past years. And I believe this technique is more important because it gives us more content to analyze our current charts. And now we see that we have a Sun and Moon trine in our chart. We can see there were also Sun Moon trines in past years. So how did they turn out? Let's take a closer look. I just want to say, because I'm sure that by examining past events, we can interpret the indicators more effectively. And additionally, I should also mention that in these years, I only researched the Libra Ingress charts. And of course, we need to evaluate all charts based on the conditions of their time. And we don't have much time to do that here. We can't cover everything. However, we can take a quick look here. First of all, I must say this just because we see a trine here. We shouldn't immediately be optimistic. The moon represents, the people, and the sun represents the leader. Yes, there is a trine between them, but we cannot simply say that this period will be great. For one thing, the moon is in Gemini, meaning it has no essential dignity. It's in a peregrine. And moreover, it's out of bounds. We have already mentioned that. And so it has an erratic or unpredictable nature. And about trine aspects, maybe trine aspects always scare me because I don't know how can I say that, but although they seem beneficial, trine aspects can bring both positive and negative effects during an event, I think. Trine aspects, I don't know. For example, in this case, a bomb explosion, a trine can expand the impact, resulting in more casualties, I think. And in such events, we often observe more injuries. On the other hand, in negative situations, I have seen that difficult aspects can sometimes prevent things from getting worse. And we know that in modern astrology, we associate trine aspects with Jupiter, sextile Venus, and trine aspects with Jupiter. Just like Jupiter, trines tend to spread, expand, and magnify things. But we need to be careful about what exactly they are amplifying. And dear Julia, I don't know, but I'd like to add a small note here. It might seem like I'm taking up a bit of time, but I believe that there are people of all levels here who are eager to learn astrology on this platform. Okay, for that reason, I would like to mention a few educational tips, if I may. Do I have your permission? Okay, okay, I'll make a quick share. About a year ago, their esteemed astrologer Tanya Daniels published an article on her website. The article was about an event chart. In Germany, there was a large aquarium in the courtyard of a luxury hotel. And on that day, the aquarium burst, and the chart showed significant grand trine patterns. And on the same day, a major fire broke out at a prominent shopping mall in Turkey, which is my home country, specifically in Istanbul. And a fire at a famous mall in the city center. And when we examine that one event in Germany, one in Turkey, the same day, the same aspect patterns, but different coordinates, different times. But in that chart, the square aspects acted as a barrier. And but they also blocked the traffic on the road leading to the mall. As a result, the fire trucks couldn't reach the scene. That's why the fire spread a little bit more. It's associated with the trine aspect, I think. And there is something I always say or I always advocate. Whether indicators work positively or negatively depends on the environment. In short, there is no such thing as good or bad in our universe, and also in our astrology universe. There is environmental negativity and environmental positivity. I say this based on my expertise in astrolocality, and as someone who has published a book on this subject, my last book. In astrology, we can assess whether indicators are good or bad by evaluating their accidental dignities or placements. The teaching of dignity, the teachings of dignity show the same thing, because we always observe a planet's condition. A planet's essential or accidental dignities are determined by its position, its environment, the sign it occupies, the house it's in, or its interactions with other indicators. So we need to consider that. For this reason, I researched the times when there was a moon-sun trine in ingress charts from previous years. I'd like to share a few chart examples with you, because we need to analyze each chart individually, but if we take a quick look, I believe it will provide a valuable example to help us better understand astrology. And when we look back 1920, in 1920, in the 1920 Libra Ingress chart, and the sun and moon are in a trine aspect. But there's something even more significant. During this time, Lebanon was established by the French. Although this is not the official date of Lebanon's independence, as we use 1943 for that, but this moment is still crucial. I will share my insights about Lebanon. Additionally, I have included a few examples of treaties between countries below, and you see that because there is something even, there aren't many stressful aspects in the chart. The only dominant one is maybe the square between Mars and Saturn here. And this could represent the efforts made for renewed agreements, trade, treaties, and in the years following World War I, of course. And another example, when we look back to 1939, and I remember that Julija mentioned that this event. We know, how can I say, let me put this nicely, we see again a trine aspects between the sun and moon. However, this is the exact year when World War II officially began. So we need to consider these trine aspects, I think. And maybe the chart is filled with many stressful aspects, and pay particularly attention to the T-square involving Mars, Pluto, and Saturn. 3 malefic planets, you see. And the Libra Ingress chart for that year begins on September 2023, but the war had already started at the beginning of September. Of course, we should analyze separate charts specifically for wars. However, we can observe something here, Libra, because by its nature should represent times of agreement and agreements, as it occurs during the period when the sun loses its light and in the natural cycle. And in terms of astrology, we know that this is when the sun's dignity declines. So it marks a time of transition as we prepare for winter. But yet this period saw the full transformation of the Cold War into a hot war in that year. Maybe strategy was at the forefront. And in the 1996 ingress, as we again see a moon-sun trine, and we encounter numerous reports of assassinations, attempts, bombings, and hijackings during this period. In the chart, the dominant aspect is Saturn and Jupiter. I think Saturn and Jupiter square in that Saturn and Jupiter square, and you can see the news here. On September 24th, U.S. President Bill Clinton signed the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. And when we examine the nuclear things or matters, you know, Pluto represents the nuclear tests. And Pluto, astrologically, Pluto was at 0 degrees and in a trine with Saturn, and indicating a powerful movement for global transformation and establishing new structures. And when we look at the 2005, we see a similar example, but this time Jupiter is involved. Jupiter is in Libra and stands out in the chart. And during this time, we encounter a significant event. You see this news here. On September 13th, the Danish cartoon crisis occurred. It's a cartoon regarding the Prophet Muhammad, were published in the Danish newspaper and leading to outrage and violent protests worldwide. And we understand that Jupiter represents matters related to religion. And this time Jupiter is involved and it's in Libra. We should also note the Yod aspect pattern formed by Pluto, Jupiter, and Mars, and the finger of the Yod is pointing from the planet Mars. And I think Mars is associated with Arabic countries, and Mars is associated with Muslims, I think. And maybe we have looked at the past years. Now the current ingress chart will be more meaningful, I think, this time, because this time we will focus more on the square aspect between maybe Venus and Pluto. After all, you know, Venus is the ruler of Libra, and additionally there is a mutual reception. We have already mentioned this, Saturn and Venus mutual reception. And on top of all this, the Sun-Moon trine will contribute to the faster spread and amplification of these themes. And now, do you think that this mutual reception will have a healing effects on the events? From my point of view, no. I really want to say that we will see peace instead of wars in the near future, but it's not. And we know Mars. That the Mars retrograde is ahead of us, and Mars is really coming to the forefront. Now we will move on the eclipse charts, and where Mars is also prominent. But additionally, on November 3rd, Mars will be in opposition to Pluto, you see, which is returning to Capricorn. And this opposition will form a T-square with Venus in the ingress chart, all at 29 degrees, you see. This one, and this one. If you recall, the Ukraine and Russia war began, you see, when Mars and Pluto were in conjunction. When they formed the square, we saw the wars in the Middle East. And Julija mentioned this 1939 and the World War II. Now they will be in opposition. Mars will even return to this point. Actually, I'm expecting a more intense atmosphere And on this topic, the esteemed astrologer, maybe I can recommend the name to anyone. The esteemed astrologer Sol Jonassen is planning to hold a webinar. I don't know which we can follow. Sol also has valuable courses on the CIA platform. Please consider joining and don't miss the amazing teachings and work of many incredible astrologers. I just wanted to remind you, dear Julia. And let's take a look at the eclipses chart. Here we have the lunar eclipse chart, and once again Mars is prominent. The eclipse degree is at 25 degrees Pisces, and the Egyptian bound rules of this degree is Mars, and the Deccan ruler is also Mars. Mars is also forming a square aspect with the lunar node's axis in the chart. It's truly in the spotlight. And you can see my notes on Mars from H.S. Green's book, leading to rumors of war, actually conflicts, strikes, and so on. Also, please pay attention to the Anticia aspect between Mars and Jupiter. There is an Anticia alignment between 7 degree Cancer Mars and 20 degree Gemini Jupiter, you see. And what could this Anticia represents? In your opinion, Mars, signifies bombs and explosions. In Cancer, maybe we can say, could Mars be indicating personal belongings? I don't know. Objects kept or protected in pockets. I don't know. Additionally, Jupiter is in Gemini, which rules communication, Gemini. And could we say that Jupiter governs cyber events, Jupiter and Gemini? Jupiter in Gemini sounds like distance communication to me. I don't know. But Mars in Cancer suggests the possibility of an attack related to this. Am I right? And here is the news. Da-da-da-dum. As a result of Israel's cyber attack, or Hezbollah's groups, militants cyber attack, thousands of pagers, I don't know how can I pronounce this item, pagers in Lebanon exploded like bombs. A bombing attack using pagers controlled remotely. So cruel, so insidious. It's an unimaginable event, I think. It sounds crucial. We can see how Lebanon is affected from the eclipse charts. And the inner chart is Lebanon's natal chart. And do you remember I mentioned at the beginning that Lebanon was established by French? And yes, and we can see how Lebanon is affected from the eclipse charts. And Jupiter at 20 degrees Gemini reflects onto Lebanon's Saturn and Mars conjunction. And pay attention to the Anticia between Jupiter and Mars. Additionally, Lebanon's moon is at 20 degree of Virgo, Virgo 20 degree, forming an exact square between them. And Mars is also a square aspect with lunar nodes. And let me say something. I always associate the lunar nodes with technology, navigation, GPS systems, and remote control mechanism. I always observe its work regarding technology navigation system, and maybe Mars squaring the lunar nodes could indicate the detonation of virtual pagers through remote control. And this highlights why Antisya is also significant here. The emphasis on Jupiter in Gemini is prominent in both the eclipse and the country's chart. And eclipses will, of course, affects the American elections as well. We would love to talk about this in detail, but we should do that in another session, maybe. And the esteemed Julija has been doing a brilliant job analyzing Kamala Harris charts and Trump's chart. And also dear agent Liz Hathway also mentioned this. I'd like to wrap up my presentation with a few brief reminders. As you know, I was a speaker at the Astrological Association conference this year, where I discussed Arabic parts. I focused mainly on their use in the pricing of agricultural products, but Arabic parts can be applied in many other areas. And the late Robert Zoller left us invaluable works from Bonatti in his book, 3 Arabic parts related to political leaders, rulers, maybe we can say kings, are particularly prominent. And you see the part of Regni, Pars Regni, is known as the part of power, representing ruling authority and governance. And the Pars Nobilitatis, on the other hand, can be considered the part of nobility. You can see the formulas for these parts. For the part of nobility, we use 2 different formulas for day and night. For the day, we use 19 degrees Aries, where the ruler of the day, the sun, is exalted. And similarly, for the night, we use 3 degrees Taurus, where the ruler of the night, the moon, is exalted here. This perspective allows us to see additional details when evaluating election charts and leaders. That's why I wanted to briefly mention it. Finally, maybe we can say the pars essentientia atque nobilitatis. I don't know, my Latin is excellent, or at least that's what I'd like to believe. Maybe my English, my Latin is excellent, I'm so sorry about my English, by the way. And it translates, maybe we can translate to part of excellence or part of superiority. Maybe. And the calculation, you see part of the calculation of the part of superiority based on the part of spirit, part of futurorum, spirit, part of spirit and part of fortune. And these 2 parts have been highly valued by all classical traditional astrologers, and they must be calculated separately for day and night, because both the part of fortune and part of spirit have different formulas for day and night. And in a leader's chart, you see, we should analyze these points and their ruling planets. Are you ready? You see the Kamala's charts. Kamala's outer chart is associated with, represents the Kamala's charts, and the inner well is Libra Ingress chart. And Kamala's Pars Regni falls in the 1st house. You see, it's Turkish, by the way. I'm so sorry, I couldn't change this. But it's the part of Regni. You see, and this one nobilitatis, and other one is superiority or part of excellence. Okay. And when we look at this chart, the part of nobility, the Pars Regni falls in the 1st house in the Ingress charts. Bingo. The Pars Nobilitatis in the Ingress is in Taurus, you see. And its ruler Venus is in the 1st house and conjoining Kamala's sun. And the Pars Excellentia in the Ingress is at, you see, 17 degrees Gemini, forming a trine with Kamala's Pars Regni, you see. And in this case, it seems that Kamala Harris has more superiority in the elections. And when we look at Trump's chart here, Trump's pars regni, you see there, is in opposition to the pars excellentia in the ingress chart. And the ruler of the pars excellentia and the pars regni, both in the ingress chart, are Mercury. Mercury, because it's in Gemini and it's in Virgo and Gemini. And the ruler is also Mercury. And Trump's sun at 22 degree forms an exact square to Mercury in the ingress chart. You see the relation between the two. Therefore, while Trump has squares, oppositions, we observe that Kamala Harris has conjunctions and trines. So perhaps we can clearly see who might be ahead in this case. And please save these part formulas and apply them to election charts and maybe inauguration chart. And please kindly share your findings with me. and thank you all for your patience. Being a part of CIA platform is truly fascinating. I feel like I'm swimming in a vast channel of knowledge. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Kenan. Wow. Oh, God. I mean, I love doing different things. So those parts, we can, hopefully my software will be able to do them. Very interesting. Yeah. See, it's those kind of things that we have to do to make it different from, the stuff that, we kind of hear a lot about, don't you think? They're those secret little tricks. Not secret, but they're the little tricks that we want to add to what we can see. So fantastic. Yeah. Oh, interesting, those parts. You know what I've always said about the parts, we need to have more of them because they're so out of date.
Yes.
We need the part of Bitcoin. We need the part of AI. We need a part of, do you know what I mean?
Oh, we can
I mean, we lived hundreds of years ago with these parts, so aren't we? So they need to be updated. Well, we need new ones. We need some new ones anyway. But we're kind of like moving on in time now. We need to let Rod. Sorry, Rod, we're keeping you from work.
Don't worry. We save the best for last.
That's it. So over to you, Rod. We're all listening now, Rod.
Okay.
To what you have going on. Thank you.
Sure, yes. So I will invite you to draw the attention to the East Asia now. We haven't heard about many things around this area for a while. So I would like to have a quick review what's going on in that area and what can we expect, especially when you look the Libra Ingress chart in Beijing or Taiwan, you were just like, oh dear. So that's going on. So the first is the current situation in China. The first is the economy is coming down. The economic force is really, really, really bad. While all around the world, the stock market is going up, and you just expecting, and you just asking ourselves, say, when is this maniac going to coming down? We don't know yet, but it could be this season. It could be next year. So we, Julija and Olga, and thanks for Kenan arranged the beautiful conference in the Istanbul. We've been asked the question when the stock market will coming down, and we all agree. Well, we don't know it's now or 2025, but at least 2026 is a turning point. We know that. So, but interestingly, in China and Hong Kong, Shanghai and Hong Kong, their stock market was falling terribly this year. So I will show you later. The second thing is China still working very hard. They always focus on the African country and also Pacific area, especially there also I think in the certain Middle East area, because the one slogan they use is that united together against colonialism, which leading by the Western country, US and UK or France. So this kind of a very attractive idea for people who think we all totally destroyed by the US superpower or Western superpower are very attractive. So people agree with them, and especially also the ambitious of the BRIC country to unite together against the dominating of the superpower of the Western country. So that sounds very attractive for all the small country who want to share all these things. Now, look, one thing I want to invite you, I think many of us, I think all of us agree that we cannot jump into the Libra Ingress directly. We always have to go back to see the Aries Ingress. That is one key. Doesn't matter how which way you see this chart. It is a kind of an important moment of the year. So interestingly, we have the I think this is based in Beijing. So I like to see. Have you seen the second house, the economic force? So we have the moon ruled the second house, but the moon is also in the second house. However, it opposite Pluto. Okay. And another thing, so when I do the Aries Ingress analyze early this year, you can see this Venus in Pisces is powerful, but conjunct Saturn. Well, it's still not going to destroy Venus. Venus can rule the Saturn, but you can see it's good. But there is a but. What? We don't know. So now let's look at the economy. Most easy way is stock market. This is a Shanghai index, Shanghai composite index. Now we can see here. This is early this year. So in the March, they're still going up until May, just before the Cancer Ingress, all the way down. This is totally different. You can very quickly to look at the Dow Jones or a FTSE or any other stock market exchange. Only Hong Kong and Shanghai have this pattern. They're coming down terribly. So this is a huge challenge. Then we can see if you quickly, let me quickly show you the Cancer Ingress chart. So this is again Cancer Ingress chart. The second house is the lord of second house is the moon again, but this time it's in sixth house. This is the Cadent house. The fourth Cadent falling. So the previous one was holding in the second house, is continuing its Sedna house. And this is just a very simple, for example, the idea of, I have to credit to Sharon, teach me this simple idea. I'm sorry, Sharon, I sold you out, and don't charge me. No, so the cardinal house, they exercise 100% power. The Sedna house, they maintain at least 50%. But when planet coming to the Cadent house, well, barely hold their 25%. I love this idea, simple, easy to remember. The cardinal, Sedna, and the Cadent, how they exercise their power. So this is not the only challenge of China. At this moment, China faces a few huge problems. The first, most important is finance. We all agree, any huge country, if you started have the kind of financial crisis, if people couldn't get their bread or in Asia, rice, then the riot is the things you can expect. So China has its financial coming down. The first sign is not just the daily life. We will talk about that. But from the government, there are already huge problem. The civil servant salary is been increasing, and then the government in the different province or city, they have financial challenge. They couldn't really pay the salary or their spending in the engineer or their everyday's work. So they have to raise the money by selling their land, selling the nation, privatizing the company. You know, in communist country, even you call it privatized, but nothing really happened. Just sell from this hand to another hand to get some fake money in. Most terribly, hope no one going to accuse me defending China, is those little, what should I say, the province government are running secret online financial fraud in the overseas country. So their target is overseas Chinese. So for example, I don't know how they find me in UK, but I can receive maybe 1 or 2 phone call a week speaking Chinese, ask me about certain things, or like say, oh, your saving in Chinese bank going to be frozen. For God's sake, I have nothing in China. So they are trying to trick you and get more money from you. This main area would be Southeast Asia, in Thailand, Cambodia, and also in Taiwan. But anywhere around the world, that's the things how they raise money. This is how they raise money, with online gambling things. The second thing is the deflation. It is interesting. All around the world, we are worried about inflation. Only in China, they are worried about deflation. That's because the income is reduced, but also the price of the good, the price of everything is declined. So people are thinking, well, I can wait maybe for 3 months. This will be cheaper. So the economy is kind of stagnant there. It's not moving. We can see again, let's come back. I blame Saturn, Venus conjunct the MC. You can see everything. The price is stagnant there, and the economic force is going up first with the Venus exaltation, but Saturn behind trace it down. Well, the third thing is about the population of old age people is increased to nearly 19%. They just recently delayed the retire age. So for the men, recently, a couple of days ago, they say for the men, they will retire at 63 years old. I say, lucky you, 63. In Europe and UK, I think we are 67 and something, and you even not sure. For the female, luckier, 58. Well, why? We know why. Because they have no money. And you can see, this is every single chart, Venus conjunct Saturn, the benefit of old age people, of the pensioner. And we can see all around the world, right? It's not only China, they delay the retire age. In UK, the reason they being heavily criticized about the Labour government is they kind of take down the what we call winter field for the most of a pensioner, unless you have lower income and you receive that the social benefits things. So this is the interesting side about the Saturn conjunct Venus. It's kind of take the things off from the old people's hand. That is quite interesting. It's not only in China, but this is quite striking me in China. What happened? Well, the final thing is the distrust of the people, which especially for those people who called overseas Chinese, or they used to study in Australia, UK, and the US, when they return to China, now they have been seen as a spy of the capitalism or the spy of the corruption of a Western country. Sorry, I use their language so well. I don't know why, but it sounds very interesting. For them, those people usually before they can get very good job because you got a Harvard degree, you got a very good university degree from English country. Now they can find a job in a small company or in Western company inside of China, but they are unable to become public servant. They've been refused. They are not able to become that. Also, I think they keep harassing the people who live in the foreign country. That is one thing we have to keep an eyes on it. Now, let's see very quickly. I'm not going to talk too much, but just because this is too interesting. We have the Ingress chart in Beijing. Then you can see this one. Uranus is right on the ascendant. And Pluto is not far. Pluto is not far from the MC. So we will ask ourselves that what's going on? What's going to happen? Well, to be honest, I'm using a symbolic way to examine these type of things. Also, we can learn from the past. But my experience tell me, well, the major theme of Uranus, then we have to check the other chart too, like all of us, we look the eclipse chart. Again, Uranus is not from descendant. Okay? More strikingly, solar eclipse chart. Uranus is an MC from Beijing. Uranus. So we have to ask, what does Uranus mean? Well, I will say we have the ranking, the possibility of the impact of Uranus from the most likely to most unlikely. So the most unlikely, let's go for most unlikely. We say revolution or riots. This is hardly going to happen in China. Let me say that. This would be really hardly happen in China. Small riot, small protest, possible. But huge riot, I don't think so. So let's move on. What is the other things? Kind of a change, shiftment of the government? No way. I don't think so. She hold absolute power. So if these two has been removed, these two options has been removed, what are the other possibility? Well, all my Chinese students tell me, say, we got the best technology. I would like, yeah, you got it. You even able to get that, that machine for the ultraviolet machine to make the semiconductor chip from Netherlands. They make a new one. Usually it's the AMSL who product that machine. They say they kind of reproduct it. They have it, made it from China. Good. And the electric car. They are so proud of their electric car. While all around the world is backward now, we are going to go hybrid, like, the petrol and the electric hybrid. But in China, everywhere is electric car. So that's one thing. They also kind of very proud of their online gaming and things. So that's a possibility to continue focus on that. The another things, I think another possibility is a certain change, a certain action. Because we can forecast the economies continue coming down, people won't be happy. So the government has taken some action to draw their attention away. I'm really sorry, I'm not good in the UK's history, but I still remember the part of the, what do we call that? Falkland Island, the background, the Falkland Island War. One of the background is the economy in the 80s wasn't that good. That's a part of a long background. I don't want to say, of course, the Argentine want to take him over too, but also we need to draw attention toward to outside to make people forget how crappy our country is. For example, Putin does the same. That's how he drew the attention of whole Russia away. Could China do that? He really want to do it just because the whole world is focused on Putin, and he saw the power of the Western country help Ukraine. So he'd be very careful, not really do it, in a kind of a rush into it. But he is planning to it. What could happen? They could kind of take in the small island from Taiwan. That is possible to make them feel, God, we're starting our unified China, great unified China project. Because there are two small islands. Still controlled by Taiwan, but it's just 100 kilometers. It's just a very tiny gap between China coast to that small island. You can really see each other cross the stream. So that two islands are usually also in favor to China too. That the small city are in favor to China too. So it looks likely that could happen, but I think that's still a challenge because to take that over, that they will pay a huge price. Or maybe, nuclear power or the nuclear power plant has some accident like Chernobyl. So that's another possibility because all the other possibility from the change in the government or the revolution has been ruled out. So technology, nuclear power are things, but another things I like to relate it to Uranus is earthquake. Well, those color line are the active fault in the Chinese area, and here is Beijing. Beijing and the city around Beijing are indeed on the active fault area. What if they are lucky enough to hit by a magnitude 7? That's enough. That's going to destroy a lot of things. And usually it's this area, green area, in central China, Sichuan area. This is the most, I think, the lot of a huge earthquake happened in this area. Okay, now let's check the map. This is the Libra Ingress map. Okay, this area is earthquake zone, and the Beijing is here. We get Uranus, Pluto in this area. So that is possibility. Because why I focus on this area? Because only if this area has a huge problem, the Beijing government will shaking. The other province, they don't care. They really don't pay any attention. Let's see again. This is if I use the local space, then we can see from here. Okay. Another thing is diplomat. Well, I don't want to say it's a huge challenge, but Australia give first shot about Senator the kind of declare that their UN's resolution 2758 is mean one China policy. China always use this resolution. They replace the Taiwan government, take the seat in 76, take the seat of Taiwan in UN as the one represent China. So the long history, Taiwan's government are from old China. Then now they be seen as a rebellion of China. But once China get power in 76, they replace Taiwan and the whole seat of China, representation of China in UN. This called Resolution 2758. But China always extended this resolution as this world only has one China, and the Taiwan has no power, has no way to enter UN. So Taiwan is always being excluded from UN. Interestingly, Australia Senate in the August, they passed one law to recognize China should not expand this explanation. Yes, you represent China, but this does not mean Taiwan cannot enter UN. So this is one thing. So Taiwan being excluded from the WHO, WHA, or every organization from the UN. This is not the only country. And we have all the representatives here, and I can predict next country who will make it. Because the next country is Netherlands. Finland just passed it a couple of days ago. So I predict as a Kenan is here, the next place to declare this resolution number 2758 is Turkey. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm just like, I think this is a very interesting, but one thing I want to show you, something shaking up, because this is not the only chart we have. In Taiwan, it's quite close. Taiwan also have Uranus, 27 degrees, and Taiwan has Algol on the ascendant. That is tricky. So the tension in this area for this season, I have to say we have to see the reality. If let's say the face-to-face war, if China want to send a troop to Taiwan, usually it's not this season, because winter and autumn is very difficult to cross the stream. They have a lot of problem, but they can really take a small island next to China. That's possible. More likely 26 or 27. I say that, but if all the possibility is not possible, then well, yes, the problem with nuclear plant or technology breakthrough or breakdown, or maybe earthquake are the things, huge earthquake are the things we can expect in this area. Thank you.
Oh,
That's
well,
right.
thanks, Rod.
Yeah,
Jeez, that's
yeah.
a lot of stuff
Yeah.
I don't know about, so I'm glad. So good for the update.
Interesting. Very
Because
interesting.
you'd get we just get the English news versions.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Where you are like a real agent, you know how to, you're in the real news now.
Yeah. Oh, may I do a tiny advertising?
Oh yes.
Yes, Jeff. Okay. Thanks everyone. I want to invite everyone come to join the AOA UK online conference from the November. And this year we have a lot. We have a great lineup. Nearly all our speakers here are going to present something. That we have Sharon and Hakan. Hakan going to lead a workshop on Friday afternoon about the astrological toolbox for assessing election result. This is going to be hot because especially we are just before the US election before. Okay, then we have Tanya Waitcave, Christine Skinner, and Julija are going to talk about the Mars-Venus cycle, and Liz going to talk about US Neptune, right? US Neptune, and the Kenan will give us his new research about the solar poles. So I have to invite everyone come to join us, and at this moment we still have a discount until Friday. So the whole conference and the workshop only costs £60. It's a very tiny price. So come to join us. Okay. Thank you for giving me the chance.
Oh, good. I'll put the links on when I upload this, and everything.
Oh, thank you.
All right, so everyone will get to know. But thanks a lot for everyone. I know we've kept you all, and we've kind of dwindled down on the Zoom. But anyway, again, everyone can watch this in their own time. But we got to give away one free webinar. Liz, sorry, what do you want to say?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say the question.
Yes.
Has anyone thought about it? Because
I did. I did as
well.
Oh, you have? Okay,
Well, because I was interested in Rod's take on that grand trine in Earth. And he mentioned there learning about the future. So my thought there, and I pondered on it immediately, is, but what might we need to learn, Rod? I was just really interested in what the future might hold. What might we need to learn? So it was just that kite, just that.
So who's got the best answer to what we need to learn in the coming months? All right.
I like this.
With Neptune at the helm.
Yeah, with those outer planets, it was a really, because I'm Capricorn, so I tend to see, the darker, and it's interesting
Me
to
too.
see. There's quite a lot of light in that idea, the learning about the future. I thought, oh yeah, how nice.
I hardly come up with this kind of idea. Very rarely.
Yeah, but it was good.
Belinda's answered compassion. Anyone else? We can vote. Anyone else want to give us their idea of what we need to learn?
But we have to remember the grand trine as well, what planets were involved there. It was Pluto, Mercury, and Uranus were the grand trine. And then Mercury opposite Neptune, sextile, Pluto, sextile.
Well, there's also the Sun, Pluto, and the Moon, right?
Yeah, there was a lot of
and then
trines in there.
Yeah, the one a little bit off.
Yeah.
So okay, we need a few more answers so we can pick one. But you know what I was going to ask, but I think I was going to ask, what's the calculation for the part of excellence?
Oh my God! Oh, that's easy. I'll just flash that out to you now.
Anyone know that?
Pronunciate this.
Well, you know, we want to learn by the end, all right? What's the calculation? But listen, because no one else has answered, Melinda, you've won the CIA membership for a year, okay?
Yay!
And I love this answer. I love this and sincerely love this answer. Compassion.
It is actually, it is, because of Neptune's sort of big role in that whole grand trine thing. And it is about learning to be compassionate.
So Melinda,
I think that's a good. Yeah.
If you can just send me your email or just pop it in the chat there so I know I've got it somewhere, but you know, it's been a while. We've probably been in touch. So, but yes, compassion. I mean, you know, you think about just how much is going on in the world, that so many people suffering. It's just in so many different ways. Yeah. And we're fighting about, you know, I mean, when's it going to change? So thank you. I'm just going to copy that.
Yeah.
So with that, I thank everybody for being part of today, or this evening today. Where are we? This evening for me. Got to let you
lunchtime.
Yeah.
Get on with the day. So happy Equinox, everyone who sees this. It's on Sunday.
Eclipses, by the way.
What's that?
And eclipses, by the way. Happy eclipses.
Oh yes, and eclipses. And then a very interesting next 3 months for sure coming up. So hold on to everything. Well, don't hold on. Actually, there's a lot going on that if we try and hold on to the old way or what we've been used to, that's again another thing that came out of the Sedna and Gemini webinar last week, is like your fingers will fall off. So do you know what I mean? Like we're really relearning lots and lots of stuff, and you know, thinking about how we're reconfiguring, you know, what we do, how we work, how we can, you know, how we're connected. And you know, I think, you know, this whole thing is also like the way social media is changing. You know, they're threatening. Twitter's been banned in Brazil. You know, they're thinking of taking TikTok off in the US. You know, there's a lot of things coming up, which is a very Pluto in Aquarius, isn't it? The surveillance.
Indeed.
Things changing that we always thought, well, okay, it's here now, but it's gone. So anyway, keep together. We've all got the CIA. Well, maybe we'll have to have more secret meetings. See you later, everyone. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Jules, for organising. Nice to hear everyone's thoughts.
Love you all, and we will talk soon. All right. Happy Equinox.
Happy Equinox. Bye bye.
All right.